Welcome everybody to Battlefield Hardline. Today we're looking at some exclusive multiplayer footage that I captured at a recent gameplay event over in San Francisco, and today we're looking at the map Glades, or as it's going to be officially called, Gator Hunt. The game mode on show is a brand new one to the Battlefield series. It's called Hotwire, and I'm going to briefly explain how it works because it's going to be a lot of the gameplay behind what you're watching today, and I think it probably makes sense that you know just what's going on. So the idea of Hotwire is to introduce vehicles into a conquest environment, but make the vehicles the objectives. So they're always moving around when you've got hold of one. And the key to the game mode is to keep the objective moving. The more you drive around the car that's designated as one of the capture points, the less likely it is that the enemy's going to be able to get hold of it. And the more points that you rack up just for being inside that vehicle. You don't have to be the driver, you can be a passenger that's hanging out the window protecting the thing from people standing at the side of the road with an RPG. So it's really a fast-paced game mode that's kind of a variant of Conquest, I think. And there comes a few problems with that, but it's a really good game mode as well. But I do want to start with one of the main problems that I found with Hotwire. The idea of the moving objectives, I think, is a really good one. It encourages people to not just use one section of the map all the time. And on Glades, that can be a little bit of an issue, because you'll notice in the gameplay in the background that the bridge in Glades, in the map, there's a large bridge with a jump on it. And it becomes a focal point that everybody plays on that map, or at least in the play session I was in, everybody sort of focused around that jump in the middle. It provided a lot of cover for snipers, for people wanting to use the C4 and things like that. So it did become a little bit annoying to see all the gameplay around there. And because that happens and everyone focuses there, that's where all the conquest points ended up being. So people would get in, drive to that point, and then get out of the conquest vehicle, and then leave it unobtained just in the middle of nowhere, not racking up any points for your team. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's anybody's fault. It's not the designer's fault, and it's not the player's fault, but it's not really usual in a Battlefield game to want to be able to use a vehicle all the time unless you're playing in a very attacking-minded vehicle, like an attack chopper or a tank, for example. You want to make sure you hold on to something like that. The vehicles in this game mode are kind of throwaway vehicles, I call them. They're like transport vehicles. You just use them to get to a place and then you just leave them there. And that's maybe something that is kind of in your mind when you're using the vehicles in Hardline. They're kind of just in there for you to get to one place, have an infantry fight, jump back in and get to the next place. But in this game mode, you need to specifically use those vehicles in order to win the game. The longer you're in them, the more tickets you're going to bleed from the enemy's amount that they've got left, and you're going to end up winning the game if you hold all of those vehicles. So maybe that's just a mindset change that needs to occur with Hardline, and I think a lot of people will pick it up very quickly, that vehicles aren't just there for you to get in and out of anymore. They're there specifically for you to use them throughout the round. Having just listened to that back, I did explain quite a lot in a very small space of time, so I do apologise, but I wanted to try and explain just how Hardline works and why it's a little bit difficult to get used to start with. But let's talk about some of the good things about Hotwire and maybe some tips that I can give you of how to work this game mode effectively. First of all, you're going to need one of those vehicles. It's pretty much a priority that you get hold of those objective cars. There are other cars available on the map that aren't objectives, and those literally are throwaway vehicles. You can just get in, go to a place, jump out, and get in the next one. If you happen to come across one of those, well, I like to call them conquest cars, you get into them, stay in it for as long as you can. There's no reason why you can't hang around a certain area just using a certain section of the map, maybe trying to get some road kills in there and things like that. You will start to see your friendly team will spawn on you in that vehicle because everybody wants points in a game mode like this, and that's the easy way to get it. Just stay in that vehicle. And you yourself get loads of points just for doing it. If you want to try and stay in the action as much as possible, then you can do that. Just drive around and around that certain point. But the first point, I have to stress that it's really important that you stay in those conquest cars. It's pretty much the only way to win this game mode. The next tip that I can probably give you, and something that I think is really good about Hardline, is obviously the engineer class, or the mechanic class as it's called in Battlefield Hardline, has taken a little bit of a nerf. Okay, it's taken rather a big nerf. It's had the RPG and the SMOR taken away from it. I'll explain about that in a minute. You can get access to the RPGs by going to the boot of one of your vehicles, and you can take one out of the boot. And I think that makes much more sense in the cops and robbers scene that they're going for. You're not going to have a cop or a robber just running down the street with an RPG. They're likely to be carrying it with them so that they can use it when they need it. Along with that as well, there are RPGs and s'mores spaced around the map in sort of the battle pickup locations where you used to find the 50 cals in Battlefield 4. And getting onto those things, the s'more is now more powerful than the RPG. When you pick up a s'more, when you pick it up from one of the battle pickup locations, I think you only get one shot with it. But if you do land your shot, you're going to blow anything up instantly. So things like a transport chopper, for example, in Battlefield 4 you'll know it takes more than one RPG hit to take that thing down. Whereas in Battlefield Hardline, if you hit it with the s'more, it's going to take it down instantly. If you decide to shoot at it with an RPG, you revert back to the Battlefield 4 way of doing things, and it takes a little bit longer. And that's why the s'more is so rare. There is only one place that you can find that on the map, whereas the RPG, there is a little bit more of a location that you can find those in. The reason I'm mentioning this is because if you can control those areas, and you control those really heavily powerful weapons, then you've got a way of getting the better of the enemy. You can take out one of their conquest vehicles. That's that out of the game. They stop getting tickets for that. They stop bleeding your tickets for doing that. And then it respawns and you can go and get that vehicle and you can start bleeding their tickets instead. So if you have control over these really sort of high action and high octane areas of the map where these weapons actually are, then you're going to stand a big chance of winning the game mode. There are so many other things that I could talk about Hotwire being a really good game mode. I think it's got its positives and its negatives, and the reason I mention the negatives is because I want the developers to be able to know what they could maybe work on to make this a better game mode. And the reason I wanted to focus on the positives as well is that this game isn't too far away from being released now. So if you wanted a sort of head start of knowing what to do when it comes to Hotwire, then hopefully this video helped you out a little bit. But that is the end of this video actually. I haven't got a huge amount more to say. I will release a little bit more Hardline in the future as well, but I kind of want to see how this video goes because it is a brand new game and it's had some bad press, Hardline, but I genuinely don't think it deserves it. I think it's a really good game. Yeah, of course there's some flaws, but those can be worked out with a little bit of community feedback. I just think everyone should give the game a chance, really. But as I say, thank you very much for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like down below. And leave all your comments today, guys. I am going to be going through them down in the comment section and reading all of them, just so that I can kind of see what you think about Hardline. So make sure you do leave your opinion down below today. But thank you very much for watching. My name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.